A very warm welcome to you all. Today we're diving into something pretty amazing, a text that's about 1,400 years old, but it lays out this incredibly detailed blueprint for how to build, maintain, and even repair a resilient society. It's a guide that's just as much about celebrating the best in people as it is about dealing with the real challenges that pop up in any group.
I mean, it's a question we've all asked ourselves at some point, right? Whether you're thinking about your neighborhood, your workplace, or even your country, we all have this desire for a community that's strong, fair, and supportive. But how do you actually build one from scratch?
And let's be real, cracks always appear, don't they? No community is perfect. You're always going to have some internal friction, maybe some insincerity, or even hypocrisy. The thing that makes this text so special is that it doesn't just give us the shiny, perfect ideal, it gives us a practical guide for when things get messy.
Okay, let's dive into the first part of this. So the blueprint starts by setting the gold standard. It paints this vivid picture of the ideal community members. These are the pioneers, the ones who laid the very foundation through huge personal sacrifice and just unwavering support for each other.
The text points to two core groups right at the start. First, you have the Muhājirūn. These were the emigrants, the people who literally left everything behind, their homes, their money, their families, all for the sake of their principles. And then you have the Anṣār, who were the helpers. They were the local community that just opened up their homes and their hearts and welcomed these newcomers as if they were their own family. These two groups together, they formed the bedrock of this brand new society.
And get this, the reward that's promised for living up to this standard, it's not about money or success, it's something way, way deeper. That phrase, Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with him, that signals the absolute highest spiritual achievement you can get. It's a state of complete and mutual contentment with the divine. And the text says this amazing reward, this great attainment, isn't just for them. It's for anyone who follows in their footsteps of goodness.
But here's where it gets really interesting. This is not some fairy tale. The blueprint is incredibly realistic. Because right after praising these sincere pioneers, it immediately turns to a hidden danger that's lurking right there inside the community. It gives us this really balanced, honest picture of society, warts and all.
And you can really see the sharp contrast laid out here. On one side, you've got the sincere folks, defined by their actions, their sacrifice, and their promise God's approval. But on the other side, you have the insincere. They're defined by this hidden hypocrisy in making claims on the outside that don't match what's on the inside. The text is saying, look, even in the heart of this amazing new community, there were people whose words just didn't match their hearts. And God knows who they are, it says, even if the leader of the community doesn't.
This brings up such a huge point about self-deception. The text argues that the people who say they believe but don't have that conviction deep down, they're really only hurting themselves. They might think they're fooling the community, but in reality, they're just deluding themselves. It's this powerful reminder that authenticity, what's really in your heart, matters so much more than empty words.
Okay, so what happens when these cracks of hypocrisy and insincerity start to show up? Does the whole thing just fall apart? Nope, not at all. The blueprint gives us what I like to call a community repair kit, a really compassionate and practical way for people who've made mistakes to find purification and come back into the fold.
And this path to renewal is built on three really clear steps. First, there's an act of purification, which is done by giving charity. It's seen as something that cleanses both your wealth and your spirit. Second, there's an act of reassurance from the community leader. Their prayers and blessings bring a sense of comfort. And third, there's the act of reconnection through sincere repentance, which is what opens the door to divine mercy.
And this part right here, it's absolutely crucial. It really highlights the leader's role as a kind of caregiver. When someone is genuinely trying to make things right, the leader's prayers for them act as a reassurance. It's basically the community saying, hey, you still belong here. We've got your back. We're rooting for you. It's all about rebuilding those social and spiritual connections that might have been broken.
And the whole idea behind this repair kit rests on one core belief. God's mercy is not a closed door. It's active, it's accessible. The text is reminding the community, hey, don't become so rigid that you refuse to let people back in. It's this beautiful balance of accountability on one hand with this powerful sense of hope on the other, because repentance is always accepted by a God who is, by his very nature, merciful.
So, we've talked about repairs, but what about the day-to-day maintenance? How do you keep the community healthy for the long run? The blueprint shifts gears here to an ongoing maintenance plan, and it's all built on one single powerful idea: accountability. Well, the main principle is that our actions are always seen.
This creates this amazing system of accountability that works on 3 different levels. First, there's God, who knows all of our hidden intentions. Second, you've got the messenger, the leader who is guiding the community. And finally, there are the believers, the community itself. This creates this powerful dynamic where our private, inner sincerity is directly connected to our public behavior.
So it all boils down to this really simple but profound formula for a morally healthy society. When you combine public accountability, knowing that your community is watching and holding you to a standard, with private sincerity, knowing that God is watching your heart, you get a resilient, thriving community. It's the engine that keeps the whole thing on track.
And to wrap it all up, the blueprint leaves us with this one last vital piece of the puzzle. After setting the standards and laying out the repair kits, it clarifies who the ultimate judge is and how that judgment works with a kind of wisdom and timing that is just beyond our human understanding.
So to really get a handle on this divine discretion, the text kind of breaks people down into a few categories, and each one is met with a different guiding principle. For those who are truly repentant, the principle is mercy, and that leads to forgiveness. For those who are stubbornly insincere, the principle is justice, which results in punishment. But then, there's this third group, the undecided ones, and for them, judgment is deferred. It's all governed by divine wisdom and timing.
And what this really is, at the end of the day, is a call for humility. It's a recognition that we might not always see justice or mercy play out on our own timeline. The blueprint is reminding the community that ultimately God alone knows every single heart and knows the absolute perfect moment for either forgiveness or for reckoning. It's really an exercise in trusting divine wisdom.
So there you have it. We've walked through this entire blueprint, from celebrating the pioneers to diagnosing the problems and then applying the path to purification. It's this complete model for social resilience, and it leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. When you look at your own communities today, your family, your neighborhood, your workplace, which part of this blueprint do you think you need to focus on the most? The praise, the problems, or the purification?